If you work in D2C and you use AI and you're wondering what the F is going on every week, this is your podcast, the AI-DTC-WTF-Podcast, your home for tactical tips, strategies, and ideas that you can implement right now into your AI workflows to make your brand or agency more money. Well, welcome to the AI-DTC-WTF Podcast. And let me just say by starting, this podcast was really for helping you get tactical information about how to use AI better in your D2C e-commerce agency or brand, right? I mean, that's basically what we're trying to do here, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, I mean, very simple. How to make your stack, whether it's generating ads or just your stack in terms of your operations, better through AI.
So one of the things that we have is we're interviewing someone for most of the episodes that we have, and we have a bunch of episodes we've already recorded, so be on the lookout for those as they come. This is the first one. But we're going to try to, as much as we can as well, talk about what's new in AI at the time that we've recorded it. There just changes by the hour, right? In the recent weeks that we were talking about. I mean, certainly we could talk about the new model on ChatGPT, or what are we calling it? GPT-2 or whatever it's called for image generation. So what do you think about that, Will? And then what are some other things that have happened recently?
Yeah. I was sort of bearish on GPT's image modeling and just GPT in general for quite some time. But I think it's sort of twofold. One, the GPT-2 image model sort of blows Nano Banana, the Gemini Google model, out of the water in almost every stat. I ran a bit of a cookoff in 15 different ad types, and GPT-2 won all of them. The caveats are it's a bit more expensive, but ultimately, in terms of product fidelity, in terms of matching your fonts, in terms of matching your colors, it's pretty unstoppable. And obviously, we're going to continue seeing these components changing, but I would say, bar none, this is the model to be using if you're going to be generating static ads. And then subsequently, if you want to be animating those ads, the newest model from Alibaba, Happy Horse, I think is what it's called. Who comes up with these names? God only knows. But it's really quite good. C Dance from the TikTok was sort of reigned supreme for a while, but now sort of the Happy Horse model is great for taking static ads and animating them.
I think so. That's good to know. That's a change that we've seen. What other new announcements have you seen that have sort of hit you and been like, oh wow, that's something that's really cool? I mean, one that I saw that I thought was really cool is sort of the operating system. It seems that Jacob has put out that a lot of people are curious and using, and it allows you to spool up agents. I'm not really sure what it does 100%. Maybe you can help me understand that, but that seems to be something a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, I'm honestly not too familiar with Jacob's setup.
Yeah, so he put out this thing that's it's called HQ, and it allows you to share knowledge, skills, workflows, and API access across the organization, so everyone works at the same foundation.
Nice. Okay. I mean, this sounds super promising. I would say something we struggle with internally, and I get on client and consulting calls and all the time is, where should I be putting all my markdown files, or where should I be putting all my agents? Right now they just sort of live locally on my computer. How do I share them with my team? This is definitely a pretty massive solve. I can't say that I've played with it, but it sounds pretty promising, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of that is like the next phase of AI seems to be the organization of where we put all this, and so that clearly makes a lot of sense, which is pretty cool. Outside of that, Claude, our best friend lately, anything that Claude has put out that you've been like absolutely loving or utilizing recently?
Yeah, I would say sort of twofold. Obviously, the Claude design came out. You'll hit your limits pretty quickly.
Hit the limits very fast, yeah.
Very fast. But we built our new website on Claude Design. It took me a weekend to do. Totally nailed brand guidelines. I would say for one-off projects like a website, it's great. For iterative processes, so you prefer to use Claude Code, especially with CRO landing pages. Claude Code is still bar none the best. If you combine Claude Code, Vercel, and GitHub, you can spin up landing pages really rather easily. The other thing that is, and I'm sure most folks listening to this may or may not know about, is on Canva, they dropped a tool that allows you to upload AI-generated ads. And what it will do is it will take each layer of the ad you created and separate them. So you can move elements around, you can change your copy. Folks have had issues for ages, editing AI images. And so like that has been a massive unlock for us, for allowing our editors to clean those minor
be
things
more
up.
flexible with it. Yeah, nice. Cool.
Totally. And then I think, the most exciting announcement, probably unrelated to marketing, was sort of the announcement of the JV with Anthropic, with Blackstone, Goldman, et cetera, sort of saying that it's going to be spinning up this service-oriented consulting service to ultimately implement AI within enterprise businesses. And I think folks have been talking about this for a while and saying that service augmented with AI is going to lead the pack in terms of company types. We had SaaS for a while, but now it's service plus AI. And this almost sort of confirms that hypothesis that there's a lot of demand for this. And both Anthropic and OpenAI, OpenAI is about to announce it as well. Doing this almost confirms that, like, if you are able to effectively better augment your agency or your brand with custom tooling with AI, you are going to be at the forefront of this bubble, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. I agree that you going through this as a person that's learning and listening to this podcast and soaking up new knowledge is you're at the leading edge, and so good for you for continuing to follow along. And yeah, seeing a big player validated is huge, right? So the more that you can help people navigate this, the more that you can experiment yourself and be able to augment the service offering that you have is also huge with this. It's a fun time. Our first guest that we have on the podcast is Grant Hushek, who is really interesting to me. We talked about a ton of Claude stuff in this episode. We talk about a ton of the structural ways that he's building things. Thomas is also in this episode outside of a cafe in Prague drinking a glass of champagne, which is just like, so you can tell by his vibe, the questions are quite good. So let us know what you think. Andrew at foxwelldigital.com. I'm always here to receive anything from you. And these episodes are going to keep coming, right? So if there's people you want us to interview, there's people you want us to talk to, we're happy to, and we're really excited to dive into it. We go into these episodes with a lot of curiosity, and that's our goal. So without further ado, let's take it on to the interview. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I thought you were going to try to say my last name, and I was like, let's see how this goes.
Nope. I thought about it, and then I didn't. So I'm just going to leave it for now. How do you pronounce your last name? Let's just see.
Hushek.
Hushek. Okay. I always thought there was an L. So this is why this is the problem that I have, because I've said it wrong to other people. Hushek. So Grant Hushek on the podcast. We are glad to have you. By the way, so just like a 30-second brief intro. What do you do with AI now?
Yeah, I'm an AI consultant, education, adoption, implementation. And what that means is that I am actively processing transcripts, processing client needs, processing my team's communication into something coherent, right? So that could be making skills for other people, making skills for myself, making scheduled tasks. It runs the absolute gamut.
So just, you see a lot of implementations in business. And my first question is, what are some of the biggest unlocks you've seen for folks in like the last 30 days that you feel like every time you show this to a person, they're like, oh, that's an insane idea?
I think it's a lot less sexy than people will hope to hear, but really breaking down the fact of like what a skill file is. When you think about repeatability and leverage in an AI world, it all starts with a simple markdown file. So like I've spent 90 whole minutes explaining what a skill file is and how to make them and how to think about them to companies. That has been the breakthrough moment. But the more fun one is that I've connected Fathom, my note taker, to HubSpot, and every 2 hours it updates every single record of people I talk to. And that's like my happy place. I'm so happy.
What might be helpful is I think folks maybe get a little confused about the difference between like a skill versus a markdown file. What are these different components? Like, as I understand it, and I'm playing dumb for a reason, they're just like a block of text, right? Like, what exactly are these things? And why would you not just use Claude Chat directly? And what is the purpose of even using them?
Okay. So a skill file for someone listening it's essentially like an SOP, right? It's a standard operating procedure, but for AI. And so there's two main parts to it. There's the description, which is formatted in YAML, which you can just ask Claude to be like, write this in YAML. And then the real meat and potatoes of it is markdown. And markdown is the coding language, the formatting language that Notion runs on, ClickUp runs on. Anytime you do like a pound symbol and then the text gets bigger, that's markdown. Okay. And so what Claude does is it takes your process or your SOP, the way that you do things, and turns it into this file that it's going to follow step by step when you request that output or that skill. Okay. And so most people in their role, they have a collection of tasks and deliverables that they're responsible for. And you can make a skill file for each of those deliverables. Skill files can be updated in any chat. You can ask a skill to run. It can make an Excel file. It can make a document. It can make a PowerPoint, an HTML file. And you can say, okay, I didn't love how you did this part. Just update that part of the skill. And then next time it'll get better. And so why do people care about this is that when you think about Claude and Cowork and Claude Code, I talked about leverage and repeatability. So if you have a skill file that accurately and consistently gets you to a high quality output in a tenth of the time, then you can use that programmatically through a scheduled task or just in your chat, and you will get the same high quality outputs more consistently using less time. And so the skill file is kind of the key that unlocks AI leverage in each individual role and ultimately in a company.
For me, Grant, talking to you in Lisbon a couple of months or like a month ago, one of my biggest takeaways is that one thing is these skills files and using it for yourself to, make yourself more productive. But you talked about sharing skills with the team. And for me, this was like, I haven't really thought about it that way before, but I've now started doing it. And it's like a superpower unlock. But could you talk a little bit about how that works and what that is and maybe some really practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So why do we share skill files? Well, for one, if I'm making, let's say I make a lot of branded documents. So branded documents could mean SOWs, scopes of work. It could mean a prompt that I want to share with one of our clients. So I make a nice document explaining what is the prompt, how to install the prompt, how to use it, and what you should get from it. I want those to look nice. And so this branded document skill is something that I had been using personally for months. And then I realized that my engineers are also making deliverables and things that memos, briefs, etc., for our clients to read. And so I was like, okay, well, we need to get you guys the same level of output that I get, but I don't need to teach you what our brand colors are. You don't need to necessarily know what our hex codes are because all that stuff is inside the skill file. So just by downloading that skill file to my computer, even though I had Claude write it, I've iterated on it probably 5 to 10 times. I downloaded it and then I gave it to someone through Slack. I can give it to them over email and say, hey, go into Claude, go to the Customize tab, click on Skills, doing this all like I know exactly where all the things are. Go to Skills, press Add New Skill, Upload Skill, drag the file into that little box that appears, and it'll upload to your Claude database, warehouse, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you're on Claude Teams, you can also go into that Customize tab, click on Skills, and then share a skill with your team if you are an admin or if your admin has enabled the team members to share those skills. And the last thing is that if you are an admin and you have a team account, you can also create org level skills that you would then upload to the organization skills that exist in your organizational settings. That was a lot of ticky-tacky stuff, but you asked for the practical, so I'm giving you all the clicks.
It's good. I mean, I think this is exactly what we want to get into and give people the idea of how they do this. One, I have a question about Claude Code. I don't think a lot of people have done a lot with Claude Code, or it's people have built skills potentially, right? Or they're working on markdown files. But it's like, what are some of the top couple things that you've done or you've seen other people do in Claude Code that you feel like are massive unlocks for organizations?
So I'll say 2 things on this. One, I have a cool Claude Code use case, so I'll answer that part first, which is I think the ability to for product people, engineers, marketers, the ability for you to visualize in an app format what's in your brain. Like, you don't need to storyboard anymore. You don't need to go and like sit on the phone with a designer or a product person for an hour and say, no, the button should be like here and it should look like an arrow. You don't need to do that anymore. You can go to Claude Code and describe what you want, and it'll write the app. And it's very easy to now deploy those apps to a platform like Vercel. And I say that even though I'm an AI consultant, like I took 3 coding classes through my university time, hated all of them, barely passed. I didn't even pass some of them, still graduated. Point being, me and code are like oil and water. We don't get along. But I understand how the things connect. And so I'm actually more proficient in a tool like Cowork that has the same schedule task features, that has the same skill features. So for someone that never really got code, Cowork still does a lot of good for me. But when I want to get a thought out that's much more interface driven, like I want to click around, I want to see the thing, Lovable became really popular. But like I canceled my Lovable because I know that I could accomplish the same thing in Claude Code. So for marketers, salespeople, product people, if you felt like code was too far away from you to actually be able to do anything useful, I can tell you that if I was able to just describe what I wanted and it made something I think that was relatively aesthetic, let's say, like you could take a screenshot of an aesthetic website that you like and give that to Claude Code and it'll make something look pretty, right? So just knowing that that's possible, you can describe it and create an app. I think that is a use case that anyone should know that they have in their back. Will, I'm sure you have other notes on Claude Code too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also worth calling out that like creating a markdown file or creating a skill is as easy as going into your Claude chat and saying, maybe you go into a Claude chat where you just had a very long conversation about a client and you were going back and forth. Maybe Claude chat was helping you brief out an asset. And you're like, oh God, I just put so much good information in this chat. Like, what do I do now? The solution is as easy as saying, hey, Claude, can you write a markdown file for everything we just discussed and make it generic so I can use it for any client, right?
Yep.
So like maybe I was using a Claude chat for going about creating emails. And like, I thought like, oh, this is such a great way to unlock, open rates or whatever it was. Now I want to apply that to any client so I can create this generic markdown file based on the conversation we had. So Claude is always sort of coming in with that prior knowledge, right? And if you're too scared to use Claude Code, 1, get over it. It's not that scary. But 2, your alternative is you can use Claude Chat. You can take all these markdown files, put them in your projects in Claude Chat, and like that works just as well. Because I know Claude Code can be prohibitively expensive because it's not offered on the Pro plan anymore. You have to be on Max. So if you want to just do everything that Grant's sort of outlining in Claude Chat, that works really well, as well. So I guess Grant, I guess my question for you is, you're chatting with a lot of companies that probably are going from 0 to 1. Like, what is the first markdown file you tell them to create for their company?
Branded docs, branded PowerPoint, about me, and voice and tone. Those and about my company. So I'll break those down a little bit more. People really love decks, PowerPoints. It's like, in business, for some reason, we've been obsessed with like what the 16.9 aspect ratio, like God bless it. Everyone loves 16.9. I don't know why, but you want to have
PDF.
Yeah.
Love it. Everybody does.
I love
One time I was in a meeting with a massive ad agency. I was a consultant with the brand, and they had a consultant, like a massive agency that came in and did this, I think it was 300 slide deck. And it was an all-day like presentation thing. And I found out later that they were charging them $75,000 a month. And all they were doing was just like putting this strategy in this deck. I'll never forget that. I haven't forgotten it, obviously. This was like 6 years ago. I mean, 75 grand for a deck. So there you go. There's a whole nother business line. But anyway.
Yeah. I'm going to reevaluate what I'm doing for a profession. Anyway, like people really love decks. So understanding how to make a really good branding skill, I think is really helpful. I talked about branded documents. I make more document files than I do decks. But I got on a call with someone literally yesterday who's in the sales team. And she's like, our sales team is consistently pulling in different features that we need to sell to different enterprises, but we need to have them all look the same while they sub out different slides, like section 1 versus section 3. And I was like, okay, well, we need to see what your template looks like. And she showed me that she had uploaded the template deck as a PowerPoint. as a PDF instead of as a skill. And so AI, when you give it a PDF, it has to use like optical vision instead of understanding what's in the code, because PowerPoint, Excel, Doc, those are all code-based things, which is why Claude can make them with high accuracy. So if you give it a PDF, you're going to lose a lot of quality between what your reference is and what's actually going to come out. So branded decks, really popular. And then just general branding. So where your hex colors, your fonts, etc., good to have just across the board, separate to the deck. And then I talked about a few personal ones. So your voice and your tone. How do you write? How do you actually talk? To build out that skill or that markdown file, highly encourage you to get a tool called Whisperflow, because when you're talking, not typing, you actually maintain your authenticity in your voice. And then you have your About Me file. Great. I've got a prompt if you want to email me, but like you can go and just say, hey, Claude, interview me to understand who I am, what I do, how I like to work. And Claude will interview you and you can respond. And that'll create an About Me file to give context about who Claude is working with. And the last one is About My Company. And this is one that should be shared across the org. So if you want to have consistency, share your About My Company file. And that way everyone will have the same reference for Claude.
I think that's great examples. So let's get super practical into this. I now understand I need to create these different documents. I understand I can chat to Claude and he might do something for me, but could you like break it down super simple? What's the process of creating these documents in as simple way as possible?
So the About Me, the voice, and the My Company will be more straightforward because you're not using it. Like your reference is what's in your head, right? So if you start...
And just to jump in there, Grant, so when it's in your head, then you would recommend Whisperflow versus writing, because then it's more, you use more words, it's more colorful, it's more in depth, right?
Yep, exactly. So in those situations, you can start a new chat or a new task in Cowork and just explain what you're trying to achieve. Like, I want to create a markdown file that you, Claude, will reference when I start a new chat or task. And this is specifically this is really much more useful for Cowork than it is for chat, because the chat is limited in the knowledge base of a project, or it's limited to your global instructions. Cowork can actually reference files like Claude Code. So this is, when we talk about file creation, we're really thinking, okay, well, how can we get leverage on Cowork and Claude Code? So it's stating your goal. I want an About Me file that you can reference when you're talking to me. Interview me, right? I also really like to use a tool that Cowork will often recommend, but I ask for it specifically, which is called Ask User Questions. And so what this does is it just pops up a little multiple choice select. And I like that for those kind of quick, okay, well, how long do you want the file to be? Or in what circumstances will I be referencing this file? Those types of things, like it'll suggest answers that you can just select as multiple or single select and move on. But then you want to start getting into the whisper flow and really speaking what's on your mind. And you can go for 2 minutes of just yapping. And that's great context for Claude to have. So don't be shy, really let it all out. And then it'll make sense of that unstructured text. And so you can do that for your voice, your About Me, and your My Company. Those three are going to be really good for the self-interview. I've done, I think my About Me, I spent literally like an hour back and forth until it felt good. I had a really good starting prompt to work from that was probably too comprehensive. But let it take 10 minutes, let it take 15 minutes or 30. Like it's time well spent, because that's really strong leverage for when you're working with Claude.
So just 2 follow-ups from that. So one thing is you created the file, you start using it, but as I understand it, you can also kind of ask it to update itself and it should be like a living document. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. I think all of your files, all of your markdown files can be considered living documents, because at the end of the day, this is something I learned from automation. Like, edge cases exist in life, just generally, right? So if I'm making an SOW and we have these core offers, and then someone comes to me and says, all right, well, I'll pay you triple your rates if you do it completely differently. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to start from this template that I have, but let's work in this new option, right? I might want to use this new service again. So you can then say, go to my SOW skill and update it with this new path potentially. And so even when you think about your About Company, like another great example, we're growing, we're hiring, new person joins the team. Part of the about company tells you what the team roster is and what each person's role title is and what they're responsible for. So if you hire a new person, great idea to go and update that file simply by starting a new chat thread and saying, update my company file because I've just hired Bennett. Bennett runs media buying, senior media buyer. He's going to run these 5 accounts. Great. That's going to be super helpful for Claude to know that.
That's great. So then my second follow-up would be, so that's kind of the markdown document. So what about like the designs and getting it to make the correct presentations and all that stuff? How do you go about that?
Yeah. So skill files, for the most part, are going to be just single markdown files, single text files. However, when we want to have reference material like a PowerPoint template or an Excel file as a template, we might want to have our skill reference that material. This is a great example for our decks, right? And so if we are in the process of creating a new skill for branded decks, then we can provide that PowerPoint file to Claude. Claude will read the file, understand what's there, give it as a PPTX, not a PDF. And then when we make a skill file, we can tell Claude, include this PowerPoint file as reference material. And the big difference here is that at the end of its process of asking questions and getting answers and writing that skill file, there's going to be multiple files that it spits out. And you're going to want to click download all because then it's going to zip those files together and you can move the entire zip folder into Claude. And when you upload that, all the material is there, it's referenceable, and it's a larger body of work for that skill to work off of. And that's where you get really specific and granular skill files. Great for branding, great for visual things.
One thing I've always wondered that I haven't had the guts to ask someone is why, and do you recommend setting up like a dedicated computer for all of this? Like, I mean, because I got a thing, Dispatch or whatever it is on Claude that was like, hey, you can do this from your phone, and like it's still running on another computer. And I don't, apparently people just have computers sitting around. Like I don't have that kind of money. Just like having a computer sitting around. But what do you recommend doing that as you continue to sort of build on this? I guess I'm just curious of your opinion about the infrastructure side of it.
I'm getting into that much more right now. I kind of went down the rabbit hole of trying to push Cowork as far as I could with this idea of like a helpful employee companion. And so what I did was, for the longest time, I've had scheduled tasks working in Cowork that read my transcripts, Slack, email, lookup, and identify open loops, things that I said I would do, but am not doing in the call. And it logs those. And I found out that I had 6 different areas in my computer that information was being logged. So that's a no-no. Don't do that. But then I was like, okay, well, we got to start cleaning this stuff up. And so I thought, okay, well, if I had Cowork go and index that list, try to fully execute a task. And if it couldn't, give it up to someone on my team and say, I need information from you. But an actual employee would first go try to see if the task had already been done, because maybe I do it on a call, but the transcript doesn't say that. Or maybe I sent the email, but I never confirmed with Claude. So you need to go look for proof of completion. So where I'm going with all this is that Cowork has limits. Scheduled tasks only work on time. They don't work on tool. They're not tool-based triggers. So for example, difference is when Fathom completes a transcript, it is not going to start a scheduled task. A scheduled task can run every 2 hours and look for calls that finished in the last 2 hours, but Fathom can't start the workflow. Okay. So from an infrastructure perspective, I am now taking a playbook, note out of play out of Thomas's playbook. I've got a Mac Mini that I just turned on today, and I am currently moving all of the edge pushing, the boundary pushing that I've done in Cowork. I'm moving that over to my Mac Mini. I'm setting up OpenClaw, and I'm setting up the Gary Tan infrastructure for file storage. And so I'm combining all of these things now into this external thing. Main reason why my computer is on fire all day, and I cycle through the battery. It is a less than 1 year old MacBook Pro, and I cycle through the battery 5 times a day. That cannot be good for me. Like I just doesn't stand a reason that that's a good idea. So I moved it to a new computer.
I definitely identify with this. This is why I asked, because like I was doing some really complicated shit the other day, and like at the same time was also building a monkey riding a toilet cart game for Nora.
Yep.
By the way, it's a pretty dope game. If you want to play, let me know.
You got to
you have to.
What's the context there?
I asked her to come up with a funny game, and she came up with like an idea. So I'm trying to teach her like game design and design thinking and stuff. And she designed basically this Western themed game where a monkey rides a toilet around space. It's very fun, and it's you have to visit different like Western themed bathroom stops. The monkey does. So obviously she's sick.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'll send it to you guys. It's a pretty dope game. But anyway, so we're like, I've got this, and it's like running this other like two other things that are like quite complicated. And I mean, it took like all of it was taking like 20, 30 minutes, and it was comical because my computer was flaming hot. I'm like, I think I'm reaching this point. And so I didn't like that's why I asked the question. But anyway, yeah.
Just a comment, Grant. So first of all, welcome, and it's great to have you in the Claude community. What I think, going back to the start of your point of like building your skill bases and your MD files, right? So what's amazing with AI going forward, for example, with the open clause where you can install it on your Mac, is that I use a shared library via Dropbox. So everything that Cowork or Claude Code or Claude Chat is learning and updating these MD files of the company about me, I'm also putting that into my OpenClaw agents who are also reading and writing from it. So all the infrastructure that you have created with Claude, you can just directly put into kind of the infrastructure can keep working in another platform. And I think that's the magical part about MD files and skill files.
Yeah. I'm setting up that sync tonight, late in the evening hours.
And then just to add on to that, like, so you're new to this ecosystem. One thing I'm curious about your guys' thoughts on is just like Cowork. Like, I don't use Cowork at all. I just use Claude Code for everything. Is there like any advantage at all in me using Cowork versus using Code? That's my first question. Second is just like sort of like a piece of advice for our listeners here is like your first markdown file or your first skill or whatever the fuck you want to call it will probably suck. Like, it may not be perfect. And so what you need to be doing is iterating, right? And so like internally, we have markdown files for every different type of asset. So if I wanted to create like a before and after ad, and I say, hey, use this markdown file to create a before and after ad for me for this brand, and it does, it generates a prompt for me, and I put that prompt into Nano Banana, GPT-2, whatever it is, and I get an output. What I need to do is I need to take that output and I need to put it back into Code, and I need to tell Code, these are all the issues with this ad. You need to go back, or maybe more politely, please go back and update all of the respective markdown files that you used to get to this point so we don't get this mistake again. So the idea is like you're creating an iterative loop. And I will say, I may be on an island in this group here. I will say having a human in the loop doing that is far more beneficial than having a QC agent do this work. Like, I've tried having a QC agent just like iterate and iterate and iterate. It's fine, but it doesn't necessarily get there. The one thing that humans have as an advantage, especially in the marketing space, is taste. Like, and we know on this call, what maybe like a good ad looks like or what a good landing page looks like, right? Like, we can optimize as much as possible, but like there is an innately human intrinsic thing about taste. And I think that's why, having a human in the loop do this thing. But so anyway, that was just a bit of a tangent and an aside. I want to go back to the Cowork versus Code thing, because maybe I'm missing something here, and maybe our listeners are missing something here. Because I think just a Code seems to solve any problem that Cowork could ever do.
Can I go first? I have feelings about this. So I've been experimenting with Chat, Cowork, Claude, and OpenClaw, and it's a strange harmony, and there's a lot of feelings around it. But for me, what I landed on is that Cowork is my project manager that it's easier to connect to all the different connectors. It's easier than to just make sure it has all the files connected. Claude Code for me is too complicated. It looks cool when my wife looks behind my back on what I'm doing. But in terms of just making it do consistent, good quality work, for me, Cowork is better. Especially in terms of making sure all the connectors and everything is working. Because on Claude Code, I have a hard time making sure it remembers that it has the to-do list connector or the liner connector or whatever. So for me, it is my project manager that I talk about when I'm going to develop different things. And then I get that to give me the prompt I need to do in Claude Code to develop. So that's my take on it.
Got it. That makes sense. Maybe it's gotten better since the last time I used it, but I've just found that using APIs in code is just like so much more efficient than the connectors in Cowork, because I feel like the connectors, and again, it's been a few weeks since I've done it less, but I felt like the connectors just kept breaking down, and I'd have to like go reconnect them. And I was like, this is like not a repeatable system.
There's a very known bug about this connectors dropping down with the OAuth authentication thing going, which I think will be resolved soon. But you're correct, some of them are breaking down. And it is much better to connect directly to the APIs. But I think for the normies who are just using this every day, I think it's easier to just understand you have Cowork, you put in all the connectors and it will just work for you. And of course, they will prompt you if you need to reconnect or re-authenticate things. But it depends on the nerdiness level, I think, of the whole delivery. But for me, showing Cowork to different clients, which is like small e-commerce businesses in Norway, their mind get blown by just understanding how Cowork works, and applying all the things Grant have been talking about today, and just giving them MD files and creating schedules and stuff like that. You are like the coolest person in the office. You're like a superhero. You're like the peak AI person, just applying these simple tactics, I think.
And I'll throw in on that. Completely agreed. The percentage of people that are going to enjoy Claude Code is disproportionately smaller than the people that are going to jump in and immediately get value from Cowork. So if you're listening to this and you're like, fuck, I don't know what to do here, go for Cowork, have a ball, right? And to your point, Will, is this a video podcast or is this audio?
We have video component as well on our YouTube channel. Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you mind if I screen share something?
No, let's do it.
Okay. So this is what I was looking off to the side in eager anticipation. So this is something that we teach a lot in our workshops. Super colorful. Effectively, to get a good skill, I tell people it takes 3 iterations. But when we say iterate, it's like, okay, well, what does that mean, right? Like really tactically, brass tacks, how do I do that? So what I tell people is you need to have 3 inputs that are very similar. So let's say we're trying to make Excel file a financial report, right? Or we're trying to do some sort of manipulation. You can have input 1, and you're going to prompt and you're say, all right, I really want this to actually be a cleaned up Excel file with my brand colors, and I want the tabs to be really nice. The first tab needs to say, start here. And then everything else needs to be logical from there. Give it your best shot. Claude's going to make an output. You're going to say, you missed the mark about 80% of the time. And then when you revise it, you say, oh, great. I've revised what you worked on. Make me a skill to do this like my revision next time. You take that and you go to input 2. And you say, great, hey, here's input 2. Use the skill I just created. That's going to make another Claude output. You're going to revise that because it's going to miss something, but it's going to be much closer, much better. And then you get V2 of that skill. And then lastly, you take input 3, which is unique from the first 2, apply skill V2 to it. You get an output. Maybe you need to revise it. But after you revise it and you say, great, update the skill to my revision, that gives you V3. And V3 is something that I'm proud of, because I've taken the time to actually iterate with it, tell it what it got right, tell it what it got wrong, and it knows I'm crystallizing my information in my process. That way I don't have to keep re-explaining myself. And I think this is the aha moment for people when they realize that they can go from 0 to their finished product, especially in the reporting world where reporting takes freaking hours. Like some people's jobs is just reporting, right? And fine, but I want to make your life easier so that you can actually go build more relationships, focus on strategy, be creative, or do quality assurance. Those are the 4 main categories that people should be spending their time on. This is how you get there. This is how you remove copy and paste from your life. So hopefully that's a little bit more of a, like, take these steps to make a really high quality skill. This is what people pay us to do.
Love it. Well, Grant, thank you very much for being on here, sharing with us. If anybody wants to connect with Grant, he is on all the platforms, but I'm happy to connect you with him as well. You know where to find me, Andrew at foxwelldigital.com. Until next time, though, folks, keep on building.